writer, assistant editor at Illinois Policy Institute. Dylan Sharkey is joining me now on the live line to talk about how fast the government is growing in Illinois. Good morning, Dylan.
Good morning, Fawn.
It's good to have you here. Pritzker running for a third term, which should be illegal. Y'all need to work on term limits in that state. But he is, I guess it's not just him, but we are looking at hiring and salary growing in the state departments over the private sector at a very, very rapid pace.
Right. Governor Pritzker loves to talk about working families, how good he's doing for them. But for the working families in private sector jobs, they're actually at a disadvantage compared to government workers. So from 2021 to 2024, private sector workers had, on average, 10% raise in their salaries over that time. For state government workers, it's closer to 16. So they merely are getting almost like half of better growth, 57% higher in terms of like the growth in that time. The average salary for a state employee is around $85,000. For the private sector, it's $78,000. So big disparity. And the weirder part is the workers in the private sector are giving a part of their paychecks to fund the other group's salaries. That's where it comes from, is the private sector salaries.
At a higher rate than ever before.
That's right.
Yeah. That should really bother y'all. I don't know why do y'all keep voting them in?
Yeah, well, there are state employees who work hard, for sure. But the question is, do they all work 10% harder than everyone in the private sector because that's what they're being paid?
Wow. Getting a government job is a ticket to paradise in Illinois, isn't it? Because then you get a pension paid astronomically high for the rest of your life if you get full, whatever you call it.
Full benefits, that's right. That's the argument. That was the argument originally with pensions. Well, if government workers don't get as good of a salary during their career, you can kind of back end it to where they get a nice retirement. Well, this is kind of showing that they're getting both. They're getting the salary above private sector workers, and they're getting the pension at the end. Yeah.
So, and that pension is exponentially better than what you're going to get in the private sector.
Yeah, and that's 2021 compared to now. If you look further ahead, so 2023, 2026. AFSCME, which the union that represents state and government workers, they're expecting raises of 19% from 2023 to 2026. The private sector projections are closer to 12 or 13%. So it's happened before, and it's not changing anytime soon.
So what's the idea behind this? How is it going up? If you're having a hard time paying pensions, why would you continue to raise salary at such a clip? Is it trying to just retain people to keep them there, or what's going on?
It's negotiating too. So AFSCME has a contract to negotiate with the state, so that a lot of those negotiations you don't actually know what's said until the final agreement. So the public has no idea to what the process was in between.
Which I really feel like is wrong, because if you're going to have to pay their salary, you should be able to be a part, or at least informed, of what the general salaries are of your government. So who are we talking about here? State workers of what kind? Did we go by category, or is it just anybody who types a paper or an email for the state is a worker?
These numbers are the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees. It could be any various bureaucratic agencies, state, county, local level, all under AFSCME. But even people who are in AFSCME, there's people who are not upset with it. So there's roughly 60,000 people who are workers qualified in the union, but are not members, didn't want to join. Meaning 1 in 3 of people who could be in the union have rejected membership.
Well, yeah, right to work is everything. Because you don't want to pay dues to elect people you disagree with, and it sounds like to me, 1 in 3 have a clue. So where did you get this analysis? Where did you find this information?
So AFSCME, they have to publish data in an LM2 every year, which shows their expenses and how much money they brought in. And, that's another reason people don't choose not to be in the union, is because of all the money they bring in, about 23 cents of every dollar goes to actually representing workers. The other half goes to, the other 77% goes to Their affiliate union goes to overhead, administration, leadership roles, politics, lobbying, that sort of thing.
That's crazy. I mean, that's a truckload of money to a lot of us.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
When your main goal is to represent workers, it's less than a quarter of what they're actually spending.
Okay. So, how are you all okay with this?
Well, so taxpayers or voters are supposed to hold lawmakers accountable through elections, right? Well, when you have unions donating to lawmakers, lobbying lawmakers, voters don't really have a way to check those unions because they're not elected government workers. Well, they're not elected. They are government workers, but not elected. So in terms of elections, the only way we can keep them accountable is by voting against lawmakers who are, corrupted is the only word I could say, by their interests.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're one of the most corrupt states in the union, so the Republican. So that's clearly not working out for you very well.
Right, and it's hard because take like Chicago Teachers Union. Stacey Davis Gates is their president. The Chicago Teachers Union has a huge impact on Chicagoans throughout the city, but only the teachers can really affect her leadership in that role. Voters don't have much power over what she does in that union.
Yeah, and that the teachers union has gone bonkers in Illinois with the things that they ask for, especially in Chicago. It's just absolutely nuts what they ask for. They include things that have absolutely nothing to do with education. Nothing.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And it's very upsetting to me. All right, so, with a 57% faster salary growth than private sector workers, people have to, I'm doing it right now, have to be scratching their chin wondering, how do I get a government job? Just saying.
Yeah, no, it's a fair question, and that's the other thing. In theory, if our state population, it's smaller than it's been in years past, so you would think that we would need less government workers because we're serving less people, but obviously the numbers show that's not the case.
Yeah. So what are you going to do? I mean, spread the word, yes, but people say, oh, you're just blah, 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 blowing it out of proportion. Because I get emails from Pritzker's office talking about how it's all sunshine and the orange trees are blooming in Illinois. I mean, they make it sound like, they've clearly got rose-colored glasses. But I'm just saying, I'm going to get out of the metaphors and just say they're lying.
Yeah, part of it is just giving people context. When Governor Pritzker first announced that he was running again, he threw out a list of things, as you said, like the sunshine, rainbows, positive parts. One of the things he threw in there was college tuition, how he's making it more affordable to go to college in Illinois. He's talked about scholarship funding and grant funding. Grant funding, you're kind of putting it on kids to seek out those scholarships and grants. That doesn't address the issue of college tuition being too high. So that's just one example of context we can give to people to show, he's not really done as well as he's claiming on TV.
Yeah, well, he's claiming on everything, on emails, on radio, on TV, everywhere that you can get any sort of information about what's going on in Illinois. It comes out that everything's roses, rainbows, and unicorns. So yeah. It's not the truth, and Illinois is struggling to even keep people living in the state. So the private sector has to be shrinking.
Yeah, it's a huge concern of our business climate, migration. Again, Governor Pritzker's been positive about that, and there's nothing wrong with being optimistic. So as long as you address the facts of where you're at.
Yeah. So if you're making great money in the private sector, I'm sure you're fine with all of this. But there are a lot of people who serve tables. There are a lot of people who can't leave because they can't afford to make the move. There are people who have such high property tax debt that they can't sell their land because they can't catch up with their taxes. I mean, it's a pickle.
Yeah, it is, for sure, for now.
So what are you going to do besides vote? I mean, there's got to be something else. How do you say no more government jobs? Can you somehow put something on the ballot, get a hold of the Secretary of State and say we want to vote that the government has to shrink? What's a possibility here?
One thing that we have suggested to do it, this wouldn't be so much a constitutional ballot initiative, but this would be a regular law, is to keep the state budget close to Illinois' GDP growth. So if GDP in Illinois stays the same, government spending should also stay the same. That's a really simple, basic way, because if the government spending goes up by 5%, but the economy didn't grow by 5%, what was the reason for having it grow faster than the state's economy? That's a really good benchmark to keep state spending at. Well, it could also grow as kind of a compromise. So it could still grow, but at least it's not growing more than the economy.
Okay. Well, I'm confused by how Illinois operates, but I can only say that it is definitely looking like it wants to be California light. I know that you have a similar sanctuary idea in Illinois where, come one, come all, we'll let you live here. But I as a person who lives right next to you and things are just so different, if you just cross the river, I'm confused by it. Do they not look at other places and think, let's do that, it's working?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that with Illinois being California-like. In terms of government unit influence, Illinois is arguably, further out there than California in terms of what they guarantee workers in our state constitution, because a lot of organized labor has deep roots in Illinois, and so, in law, there's a lot of rights that government union workers have in Illinois that they don't even have in California or even New York, as far as going on strike for different roles and that sort of thing. So, and that's a weird example where actually, California and New York are actually the Illinois light in that sense. We're kind of like the guinea pig of crazy ideas like that.
I think you're also the world record holder of governors who've gone to jail. I think that might happen.
It'd be tough to beat. It would be tough to beat in recent history. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So state workers' salaries are growing 57% faster than private sector workers in Illinois, and the number of government workers is growing as well. So where's the beef? In Illinois. And it apparently is in state government.
Yeah, never ends.
Dylan Sharkey, writer, assistant editor, Illinois Policy Institute. Where do they go to read more about this insanity?
Please check out illinoispolicy.org.
Everybody do it. Dylan Sharkey, thank you, sir.
Of course, thank you.
Bye-bye.